Hey, what is up? What's going on, everybody? Joe here, Radio 690 ADV, your host, Joe the 690. I'm just kidding. I talk to myself in the third person. Anyway, happy Sunday, and hopefully you're having a pretty good day today. Hopefully you caught the video, because I definitely caught enough flack over it or whatever. People took it way to a different level. I thought it was quite funny on how many experts that are out there. But at the end of the day, it's still a video. You don't have to be rude or any of that type of stuff. Just be a normal person. Don't be a jerk. If you don't really have anything good to say, just don't say anything, or better yet, just don't even watch the video. But anyway, today is going to be really, really cool. We have some good stuff going on. I have my special guest today, Mr. Chip Monahan. We're fixed to get him on the line here in just a second. Excuse me. And we're going to pick his brain on a bunch of stuff. He lives up in Nebraska. He's a biker guy. He's a motorcycle guy. And he's probably had more motorcycles in the amount of time that I've known him over my 690 ADV channel and all that stuff. He follows on YouTube. He also listens to the podcast and stuff like that. And he's super fun. He's super cool. He's totally down to earth. He's about the same age as me, and very, very cool. So we're going to get him on the line, and we are going to pick his brain and just check him out, because he's a lot of fun. And I don't get to talk to him a whole lot, but the really cool thing is he is a bike guy, and it's really cool to talk to not only guys that follow the channel and the podcast, but they really get out. He gets out and gets in it. I mean, gets in it. He really, really gets out. He's got a tight-knit group, and it's very, very, very cool. Don't forget, if this is your first time, man, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and don't forget, if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so that you're reminded of everything. We have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos, from tips to reviews to all that type of stuff. And I would like for you to be part of it. Don't forget, also subscribe to our podcast too, because it's a lot of fun, man. And maybe we could pick up with it. We're trying to make it to where we can interview other bikers and adventure riders and stuff like that, and get the information from you guys on what's really cool on what you do and how you do it and what you do it on. So very, very cool. So we're going to give Chip a call real quick, and we're going to pick his brain, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. So stick around. Let's give him a quick call, and let's get after this thing. Hey, he
Joe,
answered.
how are you, buddy?
I'm good,
how are
man.
You?
What is shaking bacon?
Just waiting for your call, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, man. I just kind of pimped everybody up and let them know a little bit about you, and it's really more about you telling us about you and a little bit of your background and kind of the beginning. And I mean, you don't have to give the life story or anything like that, but it would be really cool if you could let everybody kind of know your background, maybe when you got started and sort of where you're at, because I know we're roughly about the same age.
Yeah, I got maybe a few years on you, but I started riding in high school. Bought my first bike was a 1980 Kawasaki KDX 175.
Nice.
And back then, no internet. I used to go to the library and get magazines and books and read about it. And,
right.
Finally bought a used one, and I rode the hell out of it for a lot of years. Well, for a few years.
Right.
Then after high school, I joined the military, and eventually picked up a 1986 KLR 600.
Oh yeah, I've seen that picture.
Not a 650.
Yeah.
Not a 650, a 600 back in the day.
Yeah, so that's
KLR
that's before the long span of the 650.
Exactly. So, and I had that for a few years, and then it got stolen on me twice, and that was the end of that.
I'm sorry.
And then I didn't ride for almost 20 years.
Right.
And then one day, I got 3 kids, and I was pulling in a neighborhood, and I saw a guy with a Tahoe with a rack in the back with 2 bikes in the back, and I drove a Yukon XL, which is like a suburban type vehicle.
Yeah, right.
And that moment changed my life. I said, "Oh my God, I can get bikes!" And literally within about a week or two, I had a rack, a double rack.
Right.
And I purchased a Honda 230F, I think it was, little trail bike.
Yeah, right.
And I got my son a little CRF 80.
Right.
and we were off to the races. That was it. I mean, we rode the hell out of those things.
Right.
You know?
So that's pretty much the rest is history. And then, I mean, I have mine is very similar in the same way. You know, I mean, it started out back with a buddy of mine. You know, when I was young too, and everybody's heard the story once or twice. I won't beat a dead horse, but you know, I started out, you know, I mean, really, we started out, and I kind of hate to say it because it's kind of embarrassing a little bit. And I know I haven't told you this, and I haven't really told anybody else. They always hear the XR 100 thing, and then from that to the 125 and all that type of stuff. But on ours, we first started, it was a buddy of ours. It was a moped. And we used to do donuts on that thing. And we used to try to wheelie it and everything. And that's really kind of how we got started because that was the only thing around. You know, we didn't really have anything else. But those pedals would always get in the way, you know, when you were doing whatever. But it was fun because I grew up in Florida. I'm originally from Oklahoma. And then I moved to Florida when I was a kid. But that moped, we just thought it was the coolest thing because it was two wheels and it was better than a bicycle. So because we didn't have to pedal, really, if we didn't want to. So... but from that to the XR and then to other motorcycles, four-wheelers, three-wheelers, which everybody knows, the wonderful three-wheeler from Honda. They were a lot of fun. And then I had the same type of scenario where I was out of it for literally like 20-something years. And my buddy basically, we had a separation that we just kind of went our own ways, not intentionally. It just happened. That's just life. And we kind of got back together again, and he's like, man, he goes, you got a bike? And I said, no. And he says, man, you really should get a bike again. I was like, man, my wife's not going to let me get a bike, dude. And so I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You talk her into getting me a bike, and it's a done deal. He goes, give me time. He did. He talked her into it, and she was totally against bikes. He totally talked her into it, and then that's how I got back in with a KLR 650. I got a 2007, the silver and black, and started there, and then the rest is history. I've had like 12 bikes since then. So,
yeah, for me it was about 10 years ago when this happened. When I found that rack and those two bikes, and from there I went to rode that 230 for a couple of years. Then I bought a Yamaha 08 Yamaha 250F.
Right.
Had that for about 4 years, and I always liked Japanese bikes, and I used to, you know. I used to think KTMs were way too expensive. I would never do that.
They are too expensive, man. What are you talking about?
I went to a hair scramble one time. I went to hair scramble several years back, and like 70% of all the bikes were orange. I thought, what is going on? And so I started researching it more, and I was starting to grow out of the 250.
Right.
And they ended up getting a KTM EXC 350, and I loved it. Had it for a few years, and then I went to a 500 and a 690. So now I've got several bikes, but it took me you 10 years to mature and grow and get to be a better rider and step it up one bike at a time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I know that you have because I follow your stuff, and let's just say there's a little jealousy here down in Texas, but it is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. And I'm not trying to whatever, but it's okay. Cause I've seen your arsenal of bikes, and it's one to salivate over on a lot of stuff and we're going to get into that here in just a few. One thing I'm going to throw out, and you've got the rest of the show or whenever we end up, whether it be in 30 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, whatever, you can only have one bike, only one. You got to take everything and throw them all in the garbage. You can only have one. What is it going to be, and why does it got to be that bike? Because it doesn't matter. When that bike goes in your garage, you can never have another bike. You can have all the parts for that bike, but that's the only bike that you can have. So you've got the rest of the show to think about that one. I've already got my pick, so I had it before we were going to do the show, and I will reveal that towards the end of the podcast. All right. Now, back to you and bikes. You are a bike dude. I don't care what anyone says. I've followed you. I don't want to mention any of the things that you do, social media, any of that type of stuff. People, if they want to find you, that's on their own. But I know that you've, more bikes than you can shake a stick at. And I know that you do stuff with your son. And it's really freaking cool on what you guys do. And if you could I know a little bit of the story, but if you could convey that to everybody on how it started, how many bikes you guys on what you've done over the years, and just give a little background of that, because it's really cool, because it just goes to show you that, you can make this a family thing if you really, really want to.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm not a big social media platform. I'm not trying to get any publicity or anybody followers or nothing like that. So
Exactly.
I'm just a guy that rides. But here's the deal: when I bought those two bikes, that little 80 for my son, we kept it for about a year and a half. I paid $600, and I sold it for $800. Then I bought him a CRF 100. I paid $800, or I paid $1,000 for it, and I sold it for $1,200. And my son was 13 at that time. And I said, CJ, I think we're onto something here.
Right.
So we went out and we bought an older CRF 100 for like $800. I think we paid $600, put $200 into it. Anyway, we both profited $200, and
right.
$200 in my 13-year-old son's pocket was a big deal.
Yeah, back in for a kid, $200, I'd break. Heck, I'm old guy, and $200 to me is nice.
Yeah, so from that point forward, we just started buying bikes, and I think we've probably, since in the last 9 years, I think we probably flipped 55 motorcycles, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's one or two.
And my friends are always teasing me around here about, I'm always selling something, but the fact is, years ago, I even did it more when he was younger. He's 22 now. He just turned 22. But, and hell, he's flipping things. He just picked up a YZ the other day, 14 YZ 450.
Right.
Picked up for $1,000. Within a week or two, sold it for $4,000,
God. But I've seen what you guys do, too. It's really way more in-depth than that, and it's not that you're, it's a fair number what you sell them. You're not really trying to gouge people what the market is. But I've seen the bikes, man, because you show me the before and after pictures, and I know you say that you do what needs to be done. But man, I tell you what, I've seen the befores and the afters, and they just look really, really good.
Well, here's the situation. I feel like people don't know how to market it. They take a picture of it leaning against a barn, and it's all dusty. They take a picture of it.
That's so true.
I take that exact same bike, and I clean the hell out of it. I power wash it. I brush it. I clean it. I don't do a lot of mechanical stuff at all, really. I literally just clean the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And then I take it to a nice lake or a nice picturesque kind of a place. I take multiple pictures close up, and I just remarket the exact same bike.
Yeah.
And my philosophy that I've taught my son is, if we buy it cheap, we can sell it cheap. The faster we can turn it, we can do it again.
Yeah.
So buy it cheap, sell it cheap. And something I've always said to him is, pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. If we try to sell for too much money, it's going to sit around for too long.
Right.
And you're being greedy. We got a good deal on it. We put some elbow grease into it. Let's turn around and sell it. And
yeah, because your time's worth something. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah. All of these a lot of these Japanese bikes, the DRZs, the WRs, any of the KLXs and KLRs, you can almost buy them and ride them for free. It's like free rental. You buy a bike for $3,500, you take good care of it, you resell it for $3,500.
Yeah.
You can have that $3,500 sitting in the bank, or you can have it sitting in the garage and enjoying it. Now you have to buy tires for it maybe, and change the oil, and there's a little bit of cost there, but generally speaking, we ride for free.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got some really cool equipment. I've seen some of the bikes that you've done, and you keep them for a little while. You make them look really pretty much amazing, and you're always constantly got something different. It's like you just did was it a DR 650?
A really nice DR 650, and the guy who had it, he lived several hours away, and he tried to sell it in a rural area, and he said, listen, I know when you take it back to Omaha, you're going to get $1,000 more, and that's about what I got. I got about $1,000 more for it.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. That thing was awesome.
He couldn't market. Nobody wanted to drive a couple hours to get to him. And I didn't mind going out there and grabbing it.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the key. As a lot of people, and I say it all the time, is like, look, here's the deal. I get lots of emails, and I mean lots of emails. My 690 inbox is loaded with emails, and a lot of them are intermediate to new riders to guys that are street riders that are coming over. They want a dual sport. They kind of want, the enduro type stuff. And they're always asking like, oh man, I don't really have a whole lot of money. And I was like, here's the deal. Your angle is wrong. Don't think that you don't have enough money. If you're saying you only got $50, well then yeah, you don't have enough money. But if you've got like $1,500 or $200, or $2,000 or something like that, here's the deal. How much time do you want to spend? And what are you willing to do to go get that bike? Like you said, 2 hours to go get that bike. And nice shirt, by the way. he's wearing one of the original 690s. Those are collector's items because there are no more, and I'm never making another one. So they're the original. Actually, almost all the original guys that follow the channel and everything bought them all up. They went pretty quick. But that's what I get at is like what you're saying is you're okay driving 2 hours to go get a bike that's a pretty good deal. Bring it in, work on it a little bit, turn a wrench a little bit, clean it up, put some elbow into it, and then do it, and then you got it for $1,000. Whereas,
well, here's the deal. I spent 2 hours and 15 minutes driving there, 2 hours and 15 minutes driving back, probably 6 hours into it or something like that.
Yeah.
Or some guys spend $100 to go out golfing for 6 hours.
Right.
That's their hobby.
Yeah.
It's just my hobby. It's I've got a full-time job, and I do find that, but this is kind of, I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the negotiation. I enjoy the cleanup. Everybody's got their things. Some people like tennis. Some people like golf. I have fun doing that. But going back to these motorcycles here, it's almost like, you can have $3,500 in your right pocket.
Right.
Or you can, all I'm saying is just take it out, buy the bike, and it's as if it's a different asset. It's just now in your left pocket.
Yeah, and it's not like
you've just transferred it.
Yeah, and it's not like, most of this stuff holds its value as long as it's taken care of.
That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't, now some of the bigger, more expensive bikes and particularly like some of the KTMs, and yes, they do lose value, but some of these other ones have already bottomed out at $3,000, $2,500.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
If you buy that bike, you're just taking your assets, moving from one pocket to the next.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and it's
not like you spent it; you're just holding on to it.
Yeah, and all you did, it's no different than it's probably better than the stock market. So because because there's always somebody out there wanting to buy a bike, and it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you have a WR. I've told you the story of my WR 250F. I sold it too cheap, and B, I should have never sold it. That was the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. God, that bike was so much fun. But anyway, it doesn't matter whether it's a WR or a DR or a V-Strom, and I want to talk. I'm going to get your brain. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit on V-Strom because I know you've owned one, and get your thought on that bike. A lot of people don't really categorize that bike as a dual sport or an adventure type bike, and I disagree. But I want to get your opinion on here in just a second. But there's so many bikes that are out there, and like you said, they're investments. As long as they're a Japanese or a name brand bike, if it's somewhat cared for and it's not beat to crap, they're not just flipping the throttle every 5 seconds and just killing that engine, they're worth something. And you can usually, if you are willing to put the time and your due diligence, you can find that bike. My CRF, I picked it up fully loaded. I didn't have to put anything on it. We did a few aftermarket parts with my son on it, but we got a CRF, a 2016 CRF 250L, new tires, aftermarket skid plate, nice one, rack. It was loaded. FMF pipe, the whole 9 yards, foot pegs, the whole 9 yards. I got it for $2,100. Now, he wanted 25, fantastic. But I negotiated him down. That bike was worth way more than that. But you know what? That's what it was worth to him. But I picked it up, and now I've done a little bit of extra work, and it's worth more than that, and I know that. Mm-hmm. But it's like you said, it's an investment on my end because it's not going to lose value because I take very good care of my bikes. And if you buy anything from me, you're getting a good deal, and you're going to get something that's actually going to run, and it's going to be taken care of.
Yep. I'm telling you what, some of these younger guys that are either trying to talk their parents into it or their wife or their girlfriend, if they just show them, hey, look, this bike is $3,500, it's an '08, and all the other '08s are still going out. '06s and '05s are still going for that. It's just a matter of, moving the money from your bank account to putting it in the garage for a while and having fun with it. And when I get done with it in 2 years, I'll sell it. I'll put it back in the bank account or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you're out that money, and that's the thing.
Exactly.
Is parents don't understand.
People think that, people think they're going to have to spend the money and it's gone. It's not gone. It's to me.
Exactly. It's an asset now. I mean, you own it, and it's the thing is it's cash that you can drive.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let me go back to selling these bikes. A little bit of advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy who I bought this DR from, he had washed it with a hose. Got some soap and water and cleaned it, but it wasn't clean. But you get a good power washer, you can get into places that regular hose and stuff can't get to.
Yep. And
then I spray the bikes with like a tire spray, or I think it's SE1 is a product, I think it's called.
Right.
And detailers use it, and you spray it on all the black hoses and everything like that, and makes it look shiny, brand new again.
Yeah, and it also protects it too, which is nice. So once the end user gets that bike, it's going to be protected for a while.
So when you do things like that, it just makes things. Those are little tips there. Another little tip is when you're selling the thing, I not only list it on Marketplace, but I'm a member of several groups, writing groups, and I'll repost it in those writing groups, and oftentimes I'll get the sale from one of those writing groups, and somebody didn't see it necessarily on Facebook Marketplace, but they're on Colorado Adventure page all the time, and they happen to see it there.
Right.
But they're not going into Marketplace every day looking for a bike, but they just happen to see one on the page they're on.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's the other thing too, is a lot of people don't realize, and I just found it not too long ago. I think you've been using it way longer than I have, but Facebook Marketplace, it's a great place. I mean, you can find a lot of really good deals on there, and it's way better, my personal opinion, I don't know your opinion, than Craigslist. But you can find deals on Craigslist. I will say that. I've dealt with some pretty shady people on Craigslist. And I like Marketplace because it allows me to really dial into my area, where I'm really looking at, because I can do a circumference, of how many miles I'm willing to travel. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Which is nice.
Some of the places here in Nebraska, they actually have like a Facebook Marketplace meetup place and things like that where there's cameras and such.
Right.
But a lot of times, not a lot of times, but once in a while, there's a high school not, about a half a mile from me, and I'll tell people, hey, listen, I'll meet you at, this particular high school because there's cameras in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That way you're protected and I'm protected.
Right.
So right away I'm telling them, hey, listen, I'm going some neutral ground where there's a camera. So if they don't show up, maybe they were shady, or if they're worried about me, now they're less worried because they know there's cameras there,
Yeah.
So that's another little technique that kind of, people that are real worried about it. I just had a friend of mine was selling a part from selling a motorcycle. Actually, he sold it, and these people were coming from very rural Nebraska. Actually, I take that back. They were coming from South Dakota.
Right.
And he was so worried. This guy was so worried about coming to the big city of Omaha because he was worried about getting mugged or something like that, or worried that this guy was going to rip him off. People get worried about things and things like that. Anyway, the neutral ground works out for certain people or certain things or parts or this or that, and specifically mentioning the cameras, eases people's mind.
Yeah. Well,
so that's something I use.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they think, oh man, it's too good of a deal. I'm going to get robbed or I'm going to that. So, that is nice. They even have it here too. For Marketplace, it's like a meetup or something like that where you can go. And it's the same thing with the cameras and all that stuff. It's close to the police station and things like that, But, my thing is,
with Marketplace. Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
With Marketplace, you can at least look at a profile, and every once in a while you can look and see if you have a mutual friend or something like that.
Right.
Or they know people, or you see what groups they're in or commonalities. With Craigslist, there's none of that. So I pretty much don't use Craigslist anymore at all. It's pretty much all Marketplace.
Yeah, Craigslist I've kind of backed away. As a matter of fact, I haven't even looked at it in quite some time. It's It's just too. I don't care for it a whole lot. It's not really my thing, but yeah, I just try to stay away from it. So anyway,
let me
yeah, go ahead.
Let me go on a little further here. For example, a DRZ or a WR or a KLR, one of the things I do if I lock in on a KLR, I'll just check, my local area, several cities near me, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'll look at, Grand Island, Nebraska out west. I'll look at Kansas City. I'll look at Minneapolis, I get a real feel for what that bike is worth. And then every once in a while, if you do that, you'll see one that's lower than everybody else,
Right.
And I just keep doing that, and then and I'm not one to lowball a guy. I'm just, hey, listen, I'll just ask him flat out, will you take this much or this or that, or or go see it, but I identify the low one in the market, and I go out and grab it, and then I clean the hell out of it, and I just literally remarket it. But so anybody looking to flip bikes, that's kind of some of the things I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, that actually would be kind of a fun podcast to maybe sit back and somewhere in the future, not right now, maybe do a private podcast and host it on my deal for a lot of some of my Patreons and some of the other guys that are out there. If they're willing or they're wanting to get into a type of deal like what you do, maybe we could do a podcast and you could teach them some of the techniques that you do and show them. I wouldn't want to publicly do it. It's just one of those things, I mean, it's basically taking away from all the hard work that you've done, and it's not fair to you to, your time is worth something. I don't care what anyone says. If you have something that nobody else knows truly how to do it and you can learn from that person, for something minimal, next to nothing. I mean, but it would be very cool. It would be up to you. We could talk about it later. It's not something that has to be discussed right now 100%, but I think it would be really kind of cool, just you mentioning it, because it's very interesting, because there are techniques to this stuff on finding and getting bikes. I'm pretty good at finding and getting bikes. I just have too many right now. I've got 3 I need to sell, but it would be interesting. Maybe between the two of us, we could really help some of these guys learn, and maybe they could turn something that they didn't think they could afford to get into maybe a fun thing to get into it, and then turn it into maybe some kind of a passion of maybe flipping some bikes, just so that they can ride and have different bikes and test the waters and all that stuff. Because it's really kind of cool. I'm one of those things. I don't mind helping people. I do it with my kids all the time, but it would be fun to maybe have a little session to teach people how to do it.
I'll tell you what this has done for myself, because my son was so into it. We he also started a lawn business, and he's bought and sold a few lawnmowers. In fact, he just bought one for $3,500. Had it for 4 days, listed it for 1 day, and sold it for $4,900. Okay,
yeah.
But he knows the market. But I've taught him over the years. But what this has enabled and afforded me to do is, I do take a lot of trips. You've seen a lot of my videos and things like that I've shared with you. Well, my wife is totally on board, because nothing I do or spend on motorcycles comes out of the family budget. Last 2 months, I made $1,700 in flipping bikes. And she knows this. So when I want to go on a trip to Moab or Colorado or South Dakota, and I'm going to stay for a few days or whatever, she has no problem, because it doesn't touch the family budget.
Right. And see, a lot of people, if they were to truly just totally, if I just threw them out there, and I'm not mentioning where you're at and all the things that, the even social media, all that type of stuff. But if they were to follow a lot of the videos that you put out, the pictures that you put out, people would think you were just, and it does, your financial situation is nobody's business, but they'd be like, holy mackerel, this guy's like a world traveler. And I want to talk about trips here in a second, but they would be like, oh my God, but they don't realize what you're saying right now is that it doesn't come out of your personal bank account. You finance all the fun and cool stuff by doing what you already are doing, having fun with the bikes.
True. In fact, I just told my wife yesterday, a friend of mine's going to be out in Colorado for a number of weeks at an Airbnb, and I literally just told her last night, hey, listen, I think I'm going to run out to Colorado for 5 days, 2 days of driving, 3 days of riding.
Yeah.
Because I can, and because, you know, this hobby of mine.
Yeah.
Can support it, you know.
That's the cool thing about it. People don't realize that you can do that.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I've got a few bikes, like you have a few bikes.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I literally have financed these bikes through all these deals. I'll tell you one deal that was really, really good, my best deal probably, okay?
Right.
This was years ago. I was looking for more of an adventure type bike, and it happened. I happened to get a V-Strom, so we could talk about this V-Strom situation.
Yeah,
here,
well,
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to give away another technique I used, okay? Well, on ADV Rider, there's a flea market area, and there's bikes for sale,
right?
Okay? And so I wanted a V-Strom, and I wanted a 2012 or newer.
Did you get 1,000 or the 650?
I got the 650.
Okay, gotcha.
But I was able to sign up for email alerts, and this was back in like 2013 or something like that.
Oh, man,
okay?
yeah.
This was years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would get like 30 or 40 email alerts a day of things for sale. I did this for probably 2 months or something like that.
Right.
All these frickin' emails every day, you know. But one day on a Friday, on a Sunday morning at 10:40 a.m. in the morning, an email popped up with a V-Strom for sale.
Yeah.
It was about a $7,000 to $7,500 V-Strom. The guy was asking $3,000.
God.
But it was 8 hours away in Chicago. But I called the guy right away.
Man.
And he said, listen, if you come today, I'll honor it because I'm getting all kinds of other emails and calls on it. But if you were the first to call me, if you want it, I'll give it to you for the $3,000. Okay.
It's a deal.
And we were leaving for church in 5 minutes. So I had to go to church. I got back from church, called the guy, said, hey, you still going to honor it? Yes, I'm still going to honor it. Well, I only had $800 at home. Okay.
Right.
Well, my next door neighbor he's Nigerian and he's an attorney. I knocked on his door at like 12:30, and you know, on a Sunday morning, and I asked him if he had money. You know, I had no place else to get the money quickly. The guy opened his wallet on a Sunday morning at 12:30 and pulled out $2,200 out of his pocket, out of his wallet. I took that $3,000 and I drove straight to Chicago. Got there like 8 o'clock at night, and I drove. And we loaded it for it took us an hour or two to load or something like that. And I drove straight back. I think I got back like 8 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that bike helped me finance a lot of different things because I had a lot of equity in that bike right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was a deal right out of the gate. And to find a V-Strom for $3,000, I hate to break the news to you. That's a deal. That's a deal.
Oh, I could have literally turned around the next day and sold it for $7,000. I know I could have.
Yeah.
So, but I had to go through like a month and a half of 30 emails a day, sorting through things and checking things out, you know.
Yeah.
I was patient though, you know.
That's key.
So let's talk about that bike being a dual sport. It's not a dual sport, but I can tell you what. For about 10 years there was a big dual sport ride here in Nebraska.
Right.
And I took that bike. It's a 212-mile route with some sand and some mud and everything else like that. And and this particular bike had a steering stabilizer on it. It had, you know,
nice.
It had a, you know, skid plate, and I put some nice tires on it and stuff. Anyway, I rode that bike just like a dual sport.
Yeah, and you can.
A bigger adventure bike, you know. So it can be done.
Yeah, I mean, I did on mine. I had a I had a V-Strom, the 650, the Wii as everybody calls it. And I had a lot of guys going, oh, that's not this, and it's not that, and it's not. I'm like, okay, look, here's the deal. A bike is what you want it and are willing to make it. That's my opinion. I can go get a Honda Rebel with banana bars, and I can go off-road with it. And it's a dual sport in my eyes if I want to, because really all I need is I need to change the tires in order to make it actually sort of get through. I'm not going to say it's going to be fantastic. It's not. But back to the V-Strom, my 650, that motor, which is the VS, or I think it's the VS 650. They share the same motor. That thing is probably, for a twin, is one of my favorite motors of any motorcycle I've ever ridden. It is smoother than a BMW. Its response time is better than BMW and some of the KTMs that I've ridden. In the twins, not the singles. The singles are always different, but it's just, and it's bulletproof. It's totally proven. That engine is so proven, and it's so old, and it's not hard to work on. And it's very, very smooth, and we can call it, we can crunch miles like Tic Tacs on that thing. I mean, you can literally, I did an East Coast run on it. We did 4,000 miles in 7 days, and left out of Dallas, went all the way to Dragons. We had to do it because we were supposed to meet somebody that never showed up. But anyway, we still did the trip. We went all the way through the Smokies and all that stuff, loop around, drove all the way back to Dallas. Pouring rain, all of it, a trip's not really a trip unless you get rained on, I don't think. But that V-Strom in general, and I've also taken it out west too, you can put that thing through some crap and it will do it. It ain't going to do it fantastic, but you can do it and you can get through it.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. I had that bike about 2 years, and I was down in I don't do a lot of road riding, actually. I'm almost purely a dual sport guy. I did have that V-Strom for a while, and I was always in a lot of gravel roads and minimum maintenance roads here in Nebraska and Iowa. I rode it on, But I did not even commute to work with it. I just didn't, not a very big street kind of guy. But
right.
There was another guy I knew, was asking me, hey, do I want to buy his Tigre 800? And it was newer than my V-Strom,
Yeah.
And I took that V-Strom to on one of the really only 2 street bike trips I've ever taken. I took it to northern Arkansas. And I was with some Harley guys, but I remember going up and down all these twisties and hills and thinking, I must have said in my helmet to myself about 30 times, I am never selling this bike. I'm never selling this bike because I got it so cheap. Such a great bike,
It's fun in the
what
twisties.
Happened? It was December of 2016, and this guy kept asking me for months, do I want this 800? Or 800? Well, finally, he made it so damn cheap. It was like $6,000 and I only paid $3,000 for this bike. I basically did a trade.
Yeah.
Through a dealer situation, kind of somewhat complicated. But the fact is, I used that bike to step up to a Tigre 800, and I rode that for a while too. But it was again one of these spectacular deals.
Yeah.
And that's why I did it. So those are the 2 bigger adventure bikes I've ever had. Everything else has been pretty much smaller since then and before then.
Right. Well, since you mentioned the Tigre 800, I want your opinion on that bike because I've ridden one, and I want your opinion on it. I truly opinion. Did you actually take it off-road, like off-road at all?
Here's the thing. I felt almost as if I could take my V-Strom off-road better than that thing, believe it or not. It was very, very top-heavy.
Yes.
I didn't like it. I did not like it off-road. I could do simple gravel roads with it and some minimum maintenance roads, but if it got any kind of nasty or stuck, it was heavy, and I didn't like it off-road. But on the road with that triple engine, it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Smooth as butter.
Yeah.
Great bike to have. But
that triple motor.
Anything muddy or steep or kind of tall seat and top heavy on top.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't like it off-road. Did not like it off-road.
Yeah. My experience with it was I love the look of it. As far as adventure bikes go, I like the look. I really do. I think the look is amazing. I think Triumph does they do a really good job on the look part of it. It totally fits the part, or as I like to say. I'm very much like you. It's very tippy. I didn't care for the seat was kind of okay. I thought it was a little, I don't know. It just it didn't feel right. It felt worse than my KLR as far as the balancing of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that stuck out on me, and I don't know, maybe you'll chime in after it, for guys that may be looking, going, oh man, I really like the look of it. Here's the deal. My personal opinion is I could deal with almost all of it. The one thing I couldn't deal with was off-road with it was the throttle. Okay. Their fly-by-wire is awful. It almost has a delay to it, especially in sand or anything in the loose. The throttle didn't flow with what my brain was wanting it to do. Does that make sense?
What year was the bike?
Huh?
Yeah, what year was the bike?
It was a 2015? I think it was a 2015 or a 2016. Because I was looking to buy one because it was either that or it was going to be it was a 2016 because I was tinkering between that and the BMW F800, and I ended up going with the 800 because of that.
I had a 13, and it wasn't geared as well as the newer ones. The newer ones, 15, 16s, and even newer, I think, are much better. And I think even that new 900 that they have out now is even far superior than that. But,
yeah.
The 13 wasn't geared very well, very high first gear.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, like my KTM. I mean, if I'm thinking instant giddy up, I mean, like literally. It's almost faster than my brain can process when I pull the throttle down with the fly-by-wire, which I really, really love because I don't have to guess if it's going to be there. I just noticed on the Tigre that it almost has a hesitation, and then it goes from 0 to 900 RPM,
Sure.
Instantaneously. And if you ride off-road and if you're listening to this podcast, you'll understand that if you're wanting to kind of feather the throttle off-road, I mean, you definitely want RPMs, but you don't want it instant because you'll bury out really, really fast. And I don't know. It was just real. I just didn't care for it a whole lot. It just spun. It was like 0 to complete spin up, instantly, and I didn't care for that. It just, I didn't care for it. But on the road, oh my God, that triple it's probably one of the best motors out there.
Hey, let me tell you two quick stories in relation to this Tigre 800, okay? Oftentimes I feel like people don't like to buy a bike at a dealership. They think it's going to cost too much or whatever,
Yeah.
Some people like used, but the fact is when I got rid of my V-Strom, I did trade it in through a dealer, and the guy who owned the bike worked at the dealer. The bottom line is I was treated very fairly, and I got to get rid of my V-Strom, and I got a Tigre 800, and the dealer experience was excellent.
Right.
And I feel like I really came out on the dollar side, on the positive side. And then after riding that Tigre 800 for about 2 years, kind of a similar situation, there was a Ducati dealer here in town. They had a 2012 690 that I was looking at and I wanted to buy.
Right.
I was done with the big adventure bike. I wanted a 690. I kind of liked what they had there, but it was a 2012, and I wanted a 15 or newer because a couple engine issues and difference with the 690s. I wanted a newer one, but they didn't quite have it. But what ended up they had a Tigre 800, or excuse me, a BMW F800 trade in earlier, and they sold it right away. The adventure bikes were hot.
Yeah.
So he wanted my Tigre 800, but I didn't want their bike.
Right.
But he had another customer.
Yeah.
Who wanted a desert sled, which is a Ducati Scrambler, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
But he had a 2015 KTM 690.
Oh, nice.
So what we did, which is an unusual situation, I think they only do a couple of years, what's called an in and out kind of situation, where basically I traded in my Tigre 800, which the dealership did want, and they gave me his trade-in directly to me without going through the dealership, so to speak.
Oh, nice.
It was called an in and out. And again, the guy at the dealership there traded me very fairly, and I felt like I used the equity from that V-Strom to the 800 to the 690, which I currently have.
Yeah, it's a nice one too, by the way.
I had two excellent positive dealership experiences with trade-ins, which sometimes they really put the screws to you. But in both cases, I felt like, so don't. What I'm getting at is some people will avoid the dealership on a trade-in because they don't think it'll work out or this and that.
Yeah.
Sometimes these dealerships are getting rid of things because they need to get rid of things. They're overstocked or they don't want a certain bike or whatever. So
yeah.
My point or my tip is don't overlook the experience of a dealership there.
Right. Yeah, and dealerships, I've had good and I've had bad. I've had it on both sides of the ball. My F800, I had a GSA, and I don't even want to get into that with the dealer. It was horrible. Nothing is what it was supposed to be, But my KTM on the other side, KTM North Texas, Todd over there, good buddy of mine, slmracing.com. A little bit of a prop to them. Fantastic. I mean, it was really, really good. I mean, they were super, super cool. Everything that they said happened, But my BMW, on the other hand, was a European motorcycle company here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And the bike was, I was like, look, man, I really want this bike before Thanksgiving because I had a couple things I wanted to do. It's like, oh, man, don't worry about it. We're going to try to pick one up out of Austin for you, because I wanted the Ktms green. And it was like the color, and they couldn't keep them in stock. So, I mean, they only had one in Austin, and the guy in Austin basically told him to go, jump, off a bridge. He's like, I'm not doing a dealer trade, a
Sure.
white one for that. So he's like, well, they won't do that. So, but you're in luck. We're going to just get it straight from Germany, and they'll ship it here, and it's going to be on time. Perfect. Sounds good. Went in, got all the paperwork done, got all the financing done, everything. Here it is about a week before Thanksgiving, and I give them a call, and I'm like, hey, man, where are we at? Oh, well, let's just pull the tracking. What do you mean pull the tracking? It should already be in your frickin' warehouse. You should already be putting it together. Well, they couldn't find it. Somewhere between Germany and New York City, and they couldn't give me nothing. Long story short is I just got the runaround until right before the 1st of January is when I finally got it. It was like somewhere in the week of the 1st of that. So good and bad on the dealership side. But like I said, I've had KTM. They were fantastic to me. They did everything they said. The bike came in when it was supposed to come in. The maintenance they put, we custom built that bike. It's one of the only KTM 690s of its kind of the way that it's been built. Matter of fact, he sold many bikes from it because he asked if he could leave it on the showroom floor for a week so people could look at it because it was all dressed up with all the stuff. Because I had a specific list of things that I need because I go out west, when we actually do get to get out and go, get out in it. New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Montana, wherever we're going. And I needed it specifically set up for that area. You know what I'm saying?
What did you do specifically that was unique to that build?
Well, I just, I had the suspension completely customized for the type of riding that I do. They set it up for me, for pretty much heavy-duty off-road, because that's really what I wanted. I wanted the suspension. I wanted the dampening for, lots of rocks because some of the things that we do, some of the Jeep Trail stuff, like you, Black Bear, Engineer,
Sure.
Emoji, Imaging, I'm sorry. All those type of stuff, there's, you can't use a YouTube video and go, oh man, they're just coasting over that. No, they're coasting over it because they know what the hell they're doing. Some of those rocks, dude, are literally they are babies' heads, and lemons and grapefruits, and as well as I do.
Been there, done that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and they see people ride over that stuff. And that's why I always try to tell people, take YouTube with a grain of salt before you start doing this stuff, And if you're going to go do that stuff, make sure you've got the right tool for the job. I always try to say that. So, but back to the bike, that's what it was really built around. It had to be light. I have a saying. I call light tight, do it right. So I needed it as light as possible, but I also needed it to be able to handle the things that I like to do. I love to adventure camp. So giant loop gear is what I run with. It's super light. It weighs nothing. I can put everything that I need into that. The rear end was beefed up a little bit. Let's see. I got the actual rally racing. Everything was all KTM rally. The really, really nice stuff, But they gave me, the thing is, they gave it to me for such a great deal. I couldn't even buy it for as cheap as they were selling it to me. That was the kicker. That's why I bought everything through the dealer, is because Todd and those guys just took care of me. I got the rally foot pegs, the overextended ones that are actually, they're 1.5 to 2 inches wider, which are nice because my boot actually sits on it perfectly. Let's see, the actual KTM rally skid plate. I mean, literally, it weighs nothing. When you take it off to do an oil change, you can use your pinky and your thumb, and just sling it around. It weighs nothing. It's true aircraft anodized aluminum, which is really, really nice. The bark busters, everybody's like, some guys, I don't like them because they're dangerous. And I got other guys, yeah, but I tell you what, if you've ever smacked a tree on a single track without one, yeah, you'll go get one, because I've done it and it sucks. It's not much fun. The light was completely done Cyclops. It was basically ripped out. The whole Cyclops was put in. I don't know what's in. Do you have a Cyclops in yours?
No.
Okay. The Cyclops, I didn't even know it existed. And I heard the, horror stories of the KTM headlights. It's true. They absolutely suck. It's one thing that the guy should be kicked in the head, whoever invented it, because it doesn't even work. But with the Cyclops, it's an LED. You can pick them up cheap now. When I bought it, it was like $170, but now I think you can pick them up for like $70 for the KTM. And it's super bright. It's like 15,000 lumen or something like that. It's insane. It literally lights up everything. The filler neck in the back, I'm sure you've got a CJ Designs or something like that on yours.
Yep, I do.
Yep, I do. That's what I've got on mine. And then I've got the Baja lights on the front, which are ultralight, and they will light up a football field. And they draw almost no power, because as well as I do, if you pull the seat off of a KTM 690, man, you can't even stick a straw under there. I mean, there's literally no room. I'm used to having like a V-Strom where you can put a sandwich and a water bottle, under the seat, and stuff like that, like with my 800. But the 690, there's nothing underneath the seat that you can't do anything under there. So you got to be pretty meticulous in all your wiring and all that type of stuff. What else did they do to it? The whole rear end was a rip. They ripped the whole rear end off. It's actually the European style. I forget what he called it. He has it in the build sheet, but he called it a fender eraser, but it's not really. But it's actually off of a European KTM model that they don't sell in the United States, but it fits the 690. And it keeps it really, really, really nice and trim in the back end.
Sounds like you did a build your own beta.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Yeah, that's kind of what I did. But it was a lot of fun. But they gave me a great deal, because the KTMs. I mean, you said it earlier in the podcast. KTMs are not cheap. They're not cheap. I honestly, I truly, you got to pay to play these days. That's the rule. That's my opinion. And there's nothing wrong if you can't afford a KTM. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, don't bash KTM because you can't afford one." Okay.
Well, I question my spending on KTMs all the time when I see these other bikes that are, every time I go on a long trip somewhere, there's always a guy on a DRZ or a WR who paid a third or half of what I paid, and they're doing the same thing I'm doing. So, but I will say when I do spend the money on the KTMs, and I've only had 3 of them, you do get the power to weight ratio is superior to the Japanese bikes for the most part. And the weight and the power is just so much more power and less weight, that's fantastic when you go in places. And that's what you're paying for, basically. Yeah,
and that's it. That's what I try to tell everybody. I was like, look, I said, KTM, what you're paying for is the R&D that goes into that bike. Throw all the plastics off of it. Don't sit there and say, oh, well, this is chintzy. Well, of course it's chintzy. You're paying for that ladder frame that engine is sitting in. You're paying for the guy that had to sit there and figure out how to have that engine basically float and hang underneath that ladder frame. It's chrome moly, which is, if you don't know what that is, then you just need to just go get on Google and dig into it and figure out why chrome moly is a really big damn deal. In the frame. They powder coat everything, and everybody's like, oh, but you'll see the pictures here and there of the guys going, oh, well, my frame cracked here and my frame cracked. Yeah, because, and look at the bike too. It's red and black. You probably haven't washed it in 8 years. You've probably dumped it 1,000 times, and eventually that stuff just wears on itself. You can't just keep crashing a motorcycle and expect it to sit there and last forever. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I hate it when people bash bikes. The famous one is the unreliability of the KTM. It's like, man, what rock do you live under? I'd say, oh, well, I'd rather have a Honda. Look, I love Honda, but don't sit there and bash KTM. They don't win Dakar for 18 straight years in a row because they suck and they're unreliable. If you saw what they put those bikes under, you know what I'm saying?
Honda did win last year, though.
They did. Hey, Ricky Brayback. Hey, I was rooting for him. I mean, an American.
Oh, I was too.
Yeah, an American getting over there and taking care of business. I mean, that was awesome. So, but back to the KTM and the expensive. I mean, it's okay not to have enough money to buy one. But like you said, work your way up to it. It's not like you just went out and bought a KTM. You bought this bike, and eventually it worked out that you got some KTM bikes in your in your garage, which is really awesome.
Sure. So let's bring this circle back around to your original question about which single bike would we own.
Oh yes, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, because okay. You can only have one bike.
If I can only have one bike, and I've had a lot of them.
Why?
I've owned or ridden or. I've ridden almost everything there is out there, really. I mean, I've had a lot of different things, but so the answer is going to be different for everybody depending on what their style is and what part of the country they live in and things like that.
And interest too. I think the interest can be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm here in Nebraska where there's a lot of flat gravel roads and things like that, or minimum maintenance roads.
Right.
And I've got to travel a little bit of time to get to these places from my house on the street. You know. So I need a bike that is good on the street, good on the dirt, and I need a bike that has longer maintenance intervals.
If you pick the same bike as me, I'm going to freak out because there's no way you're picking my bike.
I pretty much know we're not going to. I think I know what your bike is already, and I think you know what mine is already.
Okay.
But,
all right.
Well, so we're not going to come to the same conclusion. But the two bikes I think we're going to both land on, everything I'm going to say about these bikes, they do the exact same thing, I think. Okay. I will say, I think yours is a Japanese bike. Mine's going to be a Japanese bike, right?
Nope.
Oh, maybe I'm all wet here. Okay, well, mine is a Japanese bike, okay?
Yeah, that's okay, because here's the deal. I already know that whatever you pick is going to be a very sound pick, and it's going to be I could see where I would take it to. You may or may not like my pick, but I'm going to give you the reasoning behind my pick.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm not a big street guy, so I need something that's a dual sport. I need it to go places, If I want to put racks on it, I can do that.
Right.
I want it to be able to go on the highway, so I like 6 gears.
Yep.
So, that eliminates a couple of other bikes that people might be thinking about at the moment here. The bottom line is, I'll tell you what the bike is. You ready for it?
Yeah, but you gotta tell me why though. You got to have some street. You got to have a little dirt. But I just want to know the reasoning behind this specific bike.
The reason is it can go in the street for miles and miles and miles. Okay.
So you can crunch miles.
Yes, and when you see the guys who are doing the TAT Trans-American Trail,
see
guys that are doing the BDRs, backcountry discovery routes.
Yep. I think I know the bike.
This bike is in there all the time. When you see guys going over Engineer Pass and doing all these big rides, you see this bike all the time. Okay?
Right. Yep.
It's not the fanciest bike or anything like that, but it does the business, as you say.
I know what it is.
And the fact is, it's a WR250R. Okay?
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have one right now. Okay, I just purchased one.
I know you're supposed to.
$2,600. It had 1,300 miles on it. The bottom line is, the reason I purchased it, it's just a great extra bike for me. You know what I'm saying? I did 70 miles on it this morning.
Yeah.
It goes places. You know what I'm saying? And it's got an FMF pipe on it. It's got a fuel programmer. It's set up a little bit better than a stock bike.
Yep.
I actually had it in South Dakota several weeks ago. I did some hill climbs with it.
Yeah.
I think I did, a couple 100 miles on it.
Yeah.
Up in South Dakota and out to Wyoming and such. And the bike did everything I needed it to do,
Yeah.
And I was with guys with superior bikes, KTM's 701, Husky, and it rode right alongside them.
Yeah, but that's the thing with that bike, and I tell people all the time. I said, man, Ed is the king of the 250s because that bike will do the business. It will. Here's the deal. It's not going to get there as fast as a 690, but it's going to get there. Make no mistake about it, and it ain't going to be too far behind.
And I can do some single track on it. You see videos all over YouTube. Guys are doing single track on it, riding on a motocross track. It'll pretty much do everything. It's not a fancy bike. Interestingly enough, I'll bring up somebody else who this question was posed to Ryan F9, if people are familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
He did a long podcast, and he was asked if you could have one bike, and this guy's up in Canada, has had everything.
Yeah.
His one bike, interestingly enough, was a Kawasaki KLX 250.
Right.
Basically for the same reasons I'm saying. His heart is in the dirt.
Yeah.
And that was his answer, which I think surprised a lot of his viewers and probably your listeners as well. But these bikes, these little 250s, go everywhere, and the maintenance intervals are tremendous.
Yeah. Oh, the intervals are ridiculous in what they do. But the one thing that I like to always put a finger on whenever you talk about these bikes is it's not so much that it's the 250 or whatever, but the real big kicker about that bike is it'll do all the things that you just said, and I've said it a million times. You can manage it yourself. You don't need any help from anybody. You can pick it up yourself if you lay it down. It's not overweight. I mean, you see these guys in these 1200s and all that stuff, and at the end of the day, lay that bike down and tell me if you can pick it up. The odds are, if you're up in altitude, good luck.
Yeah. All right, Joe. So what's your answer?
All right. Now, I agree with yours.
It's not a Japanese bike.
It's not a Japanese bike. Now, I will agree with your pick. I think it's fantastic. It's totally 100%. And I've even done a video and said that the WR250R could potentially be one of the only bikes, if I had to have one, would be one. But I have to take it a little bit of a step further since we're on the podcast and I'm talking to you. So my pick is it's a proven bike. It's been around. My heart is in really, I like to call it the 60-40 range. I like 60% dirt, 40% road, but not just asphalt and concrete, because for me, I have to actually truly get out on the road and get to where I'm going. Now, I do trailer, but we're taking the trailers out. This is just a bike. This is all we have. This is how we do our business, and we want to have our fun. So I need something that I can truly get out on the highway. It's got enough power. It's got 6 gears. It's comfortable. I can do everything that I need to do. And the 6 gear is really not even a big deal to me. I don't care as long as it's not all revved out, at like 70 miles an hour. I'm not one of those guys that's got to go 90 everywhere he goes. But I also want to make sure that it's definitely set up for the dirt. It's definitely in the weight ratio. Everybody that sits there and says that certain bikes are pigs, they're like, they say the 690 is a pig, it weighs 300. It's like, brother, you've never ridden an adventure bike. Just stop. Just stop. You have no idea what you're talking about. If you've ever crunched miles on the highway, you've got to have a little bit of weight. You have to. The bike just sits there and it crawfishes everywhere. It swerves unless you got a stabilizer. I've got one on my KTM. For that reason, because when I'm highway riding, the KTM's not a whole lot of fun. The 690, because it is light. It's only 315 pounds with no fuel in it. So you gotta really need a stabilizer. So I'm getting to my point. I'm getting to my bike. Just
All
hold
right,
tight.
the suspense is killing me, buddy.
It's not going to kill you. So anyway, so it has to have the off-road. It truly needs a 21-inch front tire, which your bike does. I really like the 18-inch tire in the rear versus the 17. I think it handles better in the off-road, especially over rocks and in ruts and sand, versus a 17-inch rear. My pick. And you can't, and they're hard to find. If you can find one, but since I can pick any bike I want, I'm going to get it. So, the KTM 640 Adventure, all right? And the reason being is it has the look. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. It's truly set up for the dirt. It weighs about 340 pounds wet. It's got a 2118 tire. It's got 56 horsepower, which means it should be able to get on the highway. It should be able to just do whatever it needs to do. Yeah, that's my pick, man. And not only that, it had a 10-year span while it was out. I've seen them out in the West, and man, they do fantastic off-road. They kind of look like a little bit smaller version of the 690, but more like that 990 Adventure setup, but it's got the actual dirt front fender, which is nice, so it's not going to get gummed up in any mud or any of that type of stuff.
All right, let me ask you this question real quick.
And lots of aftermarket parts, just like you, so I can put extra stuff on there in gear.
Have you ever ridden one?
I haven't, but
all right, let me ask another question. Do you know anybody who's got one?
I do not, but I get to pick any bike I want.
That's the problem. Well, here's the deal.
Guys don't let them go, man. They don't get rid of them. They're like.
I know. But
WRs.
That's a good pick. There's no problem with the pick, but it's not. I mean, a lot of your listeners here aren't going to find one of those. You know what I'm saying? They're just not.
No.
Available.
I'm just. Here's the deal. It doesn't matter whether you can find it. I mean, if you live here in Dallas, they can't even find your bike unless they're going to go buy one.
I've seen one, but I've never ridden one. I've been run with one twice, and I know it's a great bike. Real quick, I got to give you my second place bike because it was so close to the first place, and that's a DRZ. Even though I said I wanted 6 gears, but that DR, I think in our riding group here in Nebraska, we have more DRZs than anything else. That DRZ 400, that's a real second. That's probably more popular than the WR. And I think it's a great starter bike and everything. So I don't think as a budget bike.
Yeah, the DRZ 400 is, it's again. Here's the deal, and it's the same thing with you. I mean, I totally agree with all your picks. Even the 640. It's like if they've ever ridden one, all that type of stuff. It's just like the WR. I mean, it's guys don't let them go. Just like the WR 250Rs, they're hard to find. And if you do find one, it's one of two things. It's a guy that's just trying to get out of something, but they're hard to find. And especially down here in Texas, yeah, good luck, man. Good luck. That's why whenever you posted your WR 250R, I was like, really? Another one? You got another bike? And not only that, you picked up one of the bikes that I really want. I've been searching. That's why I had to settle for a 250L. It's because I couldn't find one.
Yeah,
they're like
250Ls are everywhere.
Yeah, no,
your pick reminds me of the Honda XR 500R or 650R.
Oh, the 650. My neighbor has one.
Yeah, the one that. Am I saying it right?
650R. Yeah, there's a 600 and a 650R.
Yeah.
They're both like Baja bikes, but my neighbor has the 650R right across the street from me in our neighborhood, and you want to talk about a bike that'll rip, that thing will flat rip.
I'm actually going to be in New Jersey, in the New Jersey Pine Barrens in a week and a half, and I'm going to be riding the 650 or 600. Or it's a 650 or 650?
There's two of them. There's a 600 and a 650. So either one you win. So
either way,
matter.
that's. I'm going to be visiting a childhood buddy of mine, and we're going to be riding in the Pine Barrens, kind of where the guys from Revzilla ride.
So you're going up there, and you're going to get to ride either a 600 or a 650R.
I think it's a 600.
God,
my buddy has a 600. That, and he's also got a Honda 450 with 2 letters on the back of it. Is it an RX or what the heck is it?
It's either an XR or...
No, it's a 450. It's a newer one. What are the new ones? it's an enduro, but he made it street legally, put the lights on it and stuff like that. But
Right.
It's not an X, but it's an anyway. He's got about 4 or 5 real nice bikes. I'm gonna ride a couple of them. So
Right. Nope. That's my pick. I mean, if I could just have one. See, the thing is we didn't sit there and say, oh, it's something you're going to go out and go buy. So you got to keep that in mind. It's just if you could only have one bike and you can have ready available parts for it, what bike would you pick? Okay. Now, if we're talking, if I could only have one bike on something that is still in production today, what would my pick be? I would probably lean more towards, just because of the maintenance intervals. It would definitely be your bike. It would be the WR250R, only because I've been fascinated with that bike for the longest of times. The maintenance intervals and the valve adjustments, or actually it's just a valve check at 21,000 for that bike. But the maintenance, I mean, the oil changes are just ridiculous. I mean, they're like 6,000 miles or something like that on that bike. It's bulletproof. It's completely bulletproof. It's so proven. And when have you ever seen anybody, and I mean anybody, write something bad about that bike?
Yeah, no.
It doesn't exist.
I picked up, again, here's the thing, because I've bought and sold so many bikes over the years. Several years ago, my mother-in-law lives in like near Oklahoma City. So anyway, through a family connection, some guy with multimillionaire paid like $12,000 for 2 motorcycles, a Honda 250L and a WR 250R.
Yeah.
$12,000, had them a year and a half or so. For 2 years, put like less than 300 miles on both bikes. I picked them both up for $7,000. It was an awesome deal, and my son and I brought him home. He flipped his right away, but I kept that WR for that summer. I put about 600 or 800 miles on it, but it was stock, and I had the stock tires on it, and I didn't like it as well. But the one I have now is not stock, and it's got those new Tusk dual sport tires on it, and
I like those tires, by the way.
It's got a it's just more comfortable, better, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yes,
and again, I drove 8 hours or 6 hours or so to get those 2 bikes.
Oh right. Oh yeah. No, from where you're at, yeah, Oklahoma City is.
And I visited my mother-in-law while we were down there and made a vacation out of it. But so I've driven some long ways to get bikes on occasion.
But that's kind of what this is all about. Is what we're talking about is that sometimes it's not going to be a perfect scenario. It's not going to be 10 miles from the house. If you want it bad enough, sometimes you're just going to have to put a little more than you're almost willing to do to go get it.
Sure.
But you can get a smoking deal if you're just willing to put a little extra into it. But don't say that they're not out there, because they exist. And I've seen your farm of motorcycles over, the last year and a half, almost 2 years of going back and forth between, YouTube and everything else. I mean, you've picked up a lot of bikes. I've seen a lot of bikes go through your stuff. So, because you're posting them all the freaking time, it's hard not to see them. So, but yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that, and then the cool thing is now people can get the background of it, is that you're not just out there, just stroking a check for it out of your bank account, your personal bank account, to go get them. You're just buying, you're flipping, adding, buying, flipping, adding, buying, flipping, adding. Before you know it, I mean, now you're at a point to where your equipment is at a level that it's going to command good money. It just is what it is. And you're going to be able to get really nice bikes.
Let me tell you another quick story. My son picked up a Harley last September in a package deal, actually. He bought a pickup truck, a snowplow, and a motorcycle. He only went for the snowplow.
Right.
Ended up getting all 3, okay? Because my son had cash on hand, was able to do the deal. It took him about a week to get it done with the guy. I'm not going to go through all the exact numbers, but the bottom line is he paid about $4,500 for the Harley Davidson, okay?
Right.
The local dealership has offered him on 2 occasions $9,400 on a trade-in on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying these deals are out there, and I've taught my son, who was a teenager at the time, 13, to do this to now where he's 22. And like I said, just in the last, both of us in the last month, he made $1,400 on his mower and $1,000 on his on that YZ.
Right.
And I made $700 on a Yamaha bike I sold, and I made $1,000 on a Suzuki. You know, so these things do happen. You know.
Yeah, and I mean,
anyway, that's my message to everybody is, you know, look, study the market. There's a lot more to it. You know, I can get into some other time, but
yeah, you're going to have to put a little time into it. The thing is don't say that you can't. You can. You just have to be able to put the time in. That's what it boils down to. You know, you can't build a house in one day. It just doesn't happen. You can. I'm not going to sleep in it, but you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Just, you know, I mean,
our little motorcycle passion obsession has turned into a hobby, and the hobby happens to make money and funds our passion. So that's kind of my story there.
Yeah, and it's a win-win-win. I think it's really it's a good story, and it's pretty cool. Just going to show you that it's not just, you know, you. It's your son, and then some of the things and some techniques and
we
tips.
can get into some other time how much we ride, because
no. That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole another topic. But
yeah, as far as
a whole other deal there.
Yeah. As far as getting out and riding, I mean, that's like a whole other podcast. I mean, that's places you've been and all that type of stuff. We won't get into that. I'm sure we're going to do another podcast. I'm fairly certain of that. All right, before we cut this thing up, what do you got coming up? What trip are you got anything planned? What's it? Because I know you're a planner. You're real big on the planning of getting out and biking. So what's coming up? Because we're already.
You know, unfortunately, I'm heading out of town for a short time right now. But our guys in our group are actually heading out to on a ride. Well, this is dropping on Sunday, right?
Yes, tomorrow.
You know, so tomorrow those guys on Sunday. Today would be Sunday. This podcast will be out there. We got a bunch of our guys all out in St. Paul, Nebraska, doing I think a 112-mile loop or something like that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
they're doing a nice dual sport route that I've done once before. But other than that, coming up, I've got this. There's a few things in between, but I'm going to go to Colorado in September, and I'm going to go this Adventure Palooza.
Yeah,
down in Mexico, Missouri, with a couple guys.
Yeah, I got some people that were asking me, and I mean, if I can make it happen, I would like to do it. It looks really cool. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, there's a guy named Dale McIntosh and his buddy John. They do a great job of putting an event together down there, and it's a fantastic deal. However, a lot of my buddies have been. This is going to be my first time going, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But Adventure Palooza in Mexico, Missouri, it's called.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool from what I saw, and it looks like the routes are pretty legit. They look like a lot of fun. I probably wouldn't go there on a big adventure bike from what I've saw from the routes. I would either be on a WR250 or, you know, a 690 or a 500 or just a bike that can handle, you know, some decent off-road, because it looks like it's going to be some you know, it's not going to be a street ride.
Yeah, it's a four for me, the route I'm going to go, it's a 450-mile one-way trip there. I'll be doing that on my 690.
Yeah.
Actually.
Are you riding out or are you trailering?
I'm trailering down to near Kansas City, and we'll start from Kansas City and do a 450-mile route to the sort of closer to the middle of the state. And there's people from all four corners of the state all meeting. There'll be over 100 riders meeting in Mexico, Missouri. There's a north, east, south, and west route.
Right.
And everybody's going to, you know, from all over the country are going to collaborate right there in Mexico, Missouri.
Oh, nice. Yeah, man, I need to, whatever. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to ride, man. We're going to ride. You and I are going to hook up. We're going to ride. I know you're not big on adventure camping, getting in the dirt too much, but maybe we could plan something here between this year and next year where we can maybe split it up a little bit to where it's half and half or something, But because that would be fun. It'd be fun to get out and ride, and kind of tear it up, do a little bit of off road, because it would be a lot of fun to just kind of drop all the stuff, because it's so much fun. But man, I'm so used to having gear on the back. I really have to really make sure I'm on my game, because I've ridden with some of some subscribers and buddies that I've met through YouTube and social media, and I went and rode with them up in Arkansas. I don't know if you've ever been up and through Arkansas in that area, and some of those trails and roads that are up there. There's some pretty good stuff up there, man. It's pretty gnarly stuff. But
twice I've been there on a once on a KLR, once on a V-Strom, but I was with Hurley kind of guys, and it was a street ride. It's only 2 times I've ever been to Arkansas riding, but that's in the future. I'm going to hit Missouri this year. I was in Garnett, Kansas earlier this year, and I had a great event that they put on down there. And again, we'll get into how much I ride and where I go later on sometime.
Oh yeah, no, we'll definitely do that. And I know you're fixing to have to slowly wrap it up because you got to pack. You're leaving tomorrow, headed across country to go handle your stuff. But
I'll be riding the Jersey Pine Barrens. That's another.
God.
And then, actually, we're going to ride one day down there, and I think we're going to do another day up in northern New Jersey, up in what's called Sussex County, which is the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That ought to be real horrible to see.
I think I'm riding with a bunch of guys called the Fat Guys Dirt Bike Club or something like that.
Really?
Yes.
Man.
Up in their neck of the woods.
God. Lucky.
There's a Jersey dual sport group up there. I think they're something with fat guys or something like that. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to 2 places in Jersey riding.
Nope.
Which is where I grew up. I'm from Jersey, so it's not exactly my backyard, but but near it. So
yeah, it's like me. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, and I was born in Oklahoma. I was there until I was about 8 or 9, and then in Florida, went to Pancake Land, where it's like the worst riding in the world unless you're a Harley rider. And then from there back to Oklahoma, and then to Texas, and I've been here for the last 14 years. So, but yeah, I mean, even here, there's a little bit of dirt. We've talked about it, but here you've got to. It's a metro, man. It's it's like anywhere big in the country. You got to ride to go get in it. So that's why a lot of my riding and stuff. People don't know. Why don't you go get in the dirt? It's like, dude, the closest dirt is 60 miles. So I got to do a 120-mile flip just to go shoot a 10-minute video. That's not gonna happen.
Sure.
I'm not gonna do that. Now, if I just happen to be out in it, then that's one thing. But other than that, it's probably not going to happen. But I know we do have a trip planned coming up in September. We're supposed to, because the COVID thing, which is just driving me nuts. We're supposed to be down in Big Bend, so we're supposed to be going and chewing that up for 7 days. So that should be a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be on the podcast with you, pal.
Yeah, man. No, I'm glad you're on. I think it's awesome. I think a lot of people are going to get some pretty good stuff, and I'm going to point a lot of people to the podcast, especially the people that send me emails and stuff like that about riding, and what to get and what do they got to do to try to, But I think that we could maybe have future podcasts of, certain things that people could do to get into this sport and have a lot of fun and realize that, it doesn't cost a whole lot to make this a reality. It really doesn't. You can do it. You just got to get your head wrapped around it, and you got to.
You can get me talking all day long about gear and how I purchase it and, I get the deals on that. That's a whole nother. That's a whole other podcast.
Oh
pal.
Yeah, and I got tons of gear too. So I mean, that's kind of fun. And we Well, like I said, we're not going to sit there and run this too deep into it. But I mean, I could see where we'll have definitely future podcasts. We may call it the Chip and Joe Show or something like that, and we'll come up with some really neat topics to talk about, because the thing is I mean, we could probably do a show just talking about helmets. You know what I'm saying? And then boots and pants and
headsets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Communication
Headsets.
devices.
Yeah. I saw your thing the other day on both headsets, like do's and don'ts or something like that. I saw a post or something on the new Cena. The Cena was it the 30 and the 30K
there's a new firmware out there as of June, and then if you want your 30K to sync with the new 50Ks, you got to update the firmware on your 30K.
Yeah.
In fact, I just had my first ride this morning with a guy who's got a 50K, and two of us had 30Ks and he had a 50, and all we do is turn our things on, hit our button one time, we're all three talking.
Oh, nice.
They're just the technology is slick. That's a whole nother, like you said, like a whole other topic podcast.
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
exactly. And I mean, we can talk about comms, good comms that you've had, comms that you wish that you could get your money back on, and gear that you get your money back on. Everybody's bought stuff they wish they could get their money. And I've seen you, man. You got like a swap meet every once in a while with stuff that you're trying to get rid of. You're like, hey, I've got these pants and these boots, and I got all this stuff because you just don't use it
Well, you know
anymore.
what's funny? Again, here's a little pro tip. When these people are selling their stuff,
Yeah.
or getting out of motorcycle riding, I will ask them, what else do you have in the garage? I will take their oil.
Yeah.
I will take everything they have.
Yeah.
I'll take their kid's motorcycle helmet they're not using anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
I'll load up the back of the truck. Not only I go there to buy a motorcycle, I end up coming back with a truckload of other crap.
Yeah.
And I unload that for several $100s.
Yeah, because sometimes, they're getting rid of a bike. Maybe it was their son's or something like that, and
they're moving. They're getting out of the. Here's another situation. I'll tell you the last story, and then I got to go. Okay.
Yep.
When I bought my 350, KTM 350, and it was a big deal to me to go away from the Japanese bikes and spend a lot of money on this bike. My first step into spending thousands of dollars on a bike. Okay. Well, I searched all over, and I couldn't find one here locally very well. I finally did find one out in Colorado, and again, another big road trip. I had to drive out to Colorado to get that damn thing. The bottom line is, though, the guy was like 53 years old. He had been in a mountain biking accident, broke his shoulder, was out of the motorcycle business.
Yeah.
That guy gave me basically everything he owned: toolboxes, oils, chest protectors, everything but his helmet.
Right.
I walked out of there with not only the bike at a fantastic deal.
Yeah.
But about $1,800, including
gear,
aluminum ramps and everything else you could imagine. That the guy had acquired over a lifetime of riding KTM's.
Yeah.
So it's deals like that not only do I get the bike for a good deal, you just got to ask the question.
Yeah.
And anyway. Yeah. I can go on and on with stories.
Oh, exactly. Well, that's the thing too. Just to kind of just take it one step further, whenever you buy a bike or something like that, which is really kind of cool. Like if I'm gonna go buy a used KTM, I'm just gonna throw even a WR or a KTM 690. A lot of guys like to make them their own bikes, so they take off all the old parts that are from the factory and they upgrade it with new stuff. So those parts don't fit on another bike. They only fit on that bike. So a lot of times they just give you that stuff, and that's hundreds and if not $1,000 worth of stuff that you would get for free because they're not going to get the same bike. It's like if I'm not going to go buy another 690, and if I got a 2019 or a 2020, the stuff that I have now doesn't fit on it.
Sure.
It's no good to me anymore. You know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
That's kind of one thing that you're saying. You can pick up a bunch of extra free stuff because it's no good to them because it's not going to work on anything else.
Yep. All righty, Joe.
All right, man.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And like I said, when you get back and things slow down a little bit, let's plan on another one, and we'll make it something else that's very interesting for other people because a lot of people will get a lot of good stuff out of today's podcast, which is really good. And I'm going to point it to a lot of these new intermediate riders so that they can listen in on it, and maybe it'll help them get them on their way to not only getting into the sport, but making it into a hobby, and maybe it can pay for itself somewhere down the road. Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate you. Be safe. Enjoy your fun riding wherever it is that you ride every other day that I get to see. And I don't get to go, but that's okay. That's the world we live in, and that's what we have. And it just so happens that you're more of a bike guy than I am. So,
I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that, but we're definitely on the extreme ends. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, it is all good. Well, brother, you be good, be safe, have fun on your trip, and then hit me up when you get back.
Sounds good.
All right, man. You take it easy. Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right, guys, that was Chip Monahan. Super awesome guy. Like I said, he's really bikes, and he's got tons of stories. He's got tons of stuff. He knows his gear. He knows his bikes. He knows all these things, and it's really, really cool. And it was great sitting there chatting with him and talking, and hopefully you stuck around. You get to hear all this kind of stuff. But, you know, it's good stuff, and it just goes to show you that it doesn't really take everything to get into this stuff and do whatever. So if you are listening and whatever, and we are going to work on trying to have some extra stuff, and we're going to work on, I'm going to try to get with Chip and pick his brain even more, because he's really knowledgeable and he knows a ton of stuff, and he's owned lots of bikes, and the guy rides. He rides all the time. If you could see and view the places that he goes, he's always riding. He's always doing everything, and it's all financed through what he does, which is picking up bikes, cleans them up, rides them, has a good time, flips them out a little bit, and makes a little money. And it doesn't come out of his personal finances, which is really amazing. Anyway, hey, I'm Joe, Radio 690 ADB. Thank you so much for listening in, and you guys have a great and fantastic weekend. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and be part of the 690 ADV. I'm Joe, Radio 690 ADB, out.